Hello, friends. And on this episode, we are going to talk about when you can't stop replaying your loved one's final days or hours, like you just can't get that last image out of your mind. So, welcome, friends. And like I said, this episode, we're going to talk about when after somebody dies, like you kind of are busy, right? You're like planning the funeral or helping with different things, maybe kind of running through the motions, right? If it's somebody that is not directly like direct family, so you're not really planning the funeral, but you're probably like planning to travel to go, or even thinking of what can I send this person, right? So you're busy. But if it is a person that you were close to, or if you were there or you visited that person kind of the final last week or two before their death, or you were there when they actually died, that can be traumatic. Okay. And I use the word traumatic kind of lightly, right? We have big T's and little t's for trauma and kind of everything in between and all around, right? Like there's different things. And especially if you have never seen anybody die before, or you've never been there when somebody has died, like maybe you've been to a funeral, right? So you've seen a dead body, but you haven't actually seen somebody die. It is different than what the movies show us. The movies show us like, oh, this person, like they do this heroic last speech and they take a final breath and then it's just, they're gone, right? And it's just always heroic. And that is not often what happens. And in fact, I can safely say I have never seen that happen. And I have been a hospice nurse for quite a few years. So, and I was not there for every death, but I was there for a lot of deaths. Okay. So the the world, right, tells us like this is how it should be. And then it's not like that. So I'm gonna use my experience because that's what I'm gonna use. Okay. Like I said, I have been in other deaths, but I'm gonna use mine because it was very personal. Obviously I had different emotions than when it was a patient. Like I'm not saying like I loved my patients, I cared for them, I care for their families so deeply, but it does hit differently when it is your family member who is dying. And so part of that was I knew what was going to most likely happen, but my brother and sister didn't. And so I was kind of educating them on what this will look like and how this will happen, right? And so there is that. And if you didn't get the information ahead of time, like, yeah, that just adds extra trauma because it's just so different than what we think. And so with my dad, he had had cancer for 10 years, okay? And he was still very active. He had done chemo treatments. I don't think he did radiation. I think he just did chemo treatments. I say just, right? Like they were pretty intense. And then he would take a pill. I think he did the chemo that way. I think that was a chemo pill anyway. Okay, anyway. So we had seen different phases, right? Of him declining before he even got diagnosed. He looked really awful. And so then when he got diagnosed, it was kind of like, okay, well, at least we know what's wrong. So then he got treatment and he lost his hair. And my dad had always been a very thin person and he gained weight because they put him on steroids. And so it like he was just changing. And then he kind of got to a point where he was still doing some treatments, but his body, like he had maintained, right? Like his hair came back, he was active, he was a rancher, and so he was always out walking around, working, and a very strong man. But as this went on, like his body was getting weaker, and part of that was he was also 75 when he died. But he was very active, right? So he didn't seem like he was 75. And so you could kind of see the decline happen. Then, a few months before he died, there was more of a shift. Okay. He was having more pain, more back pain. He was having kind of a harder time walking. And then he woke up one morning and he just couldn't physically walk anymore. He could feel his legs, but he couldn't get up to go like to walk, right? He couldn't get out of bed. And so we knew, okay, like the end is coming, right? He was like, no, I don't want to call it, like, I want to go on hospice. Like, yeah, like this is it, right? Like the treatments aren't working anymore. Okay. So when he was declining, like those past, like the 2 weeks, I would say really weak before he died, people, like they just look different and they get very gaunt looking. Their skin changes colors and their breathing can change. They can be alert or unalert, like their eating changes. And so I knew all this going into this. My siblings did not. And so again, it was kind of talking them through this. There are obviously other ways where people do, they die suddenly and like it's almost like they're in a distress state where like they'll have a heart attack and die. So like if you're there for that, where like their body still does change, but it's more of a just sudden, quick, like boom, it's gone. Okay, so I'm talking about all this because even knowing what I knew, right? Knowing the changes that were going to happen, knowing what was coming up, like I could not stop picturing like the final minutes and the week before of him dying. And a lot of it was because my dad was in such pain. Like he was in extreme pain. And I remember my mom and I were like helping reposition or rotate him a little bit, like a few, probably, it was probably about 8 hours before he died. And it was awful. And I was like, I'm not going to move him again. Like, because we knew, right? We knew that it was going to be soon. And so, um, but just the trauma of that, of seeing your loved one change like that, there's some trauma in that. And so when they die, okay, so when my dad died, instantly there was like a relief. And I know there's a lot of people that are like, well, I feel bad because I feel relieved. Why? It's a feeling, right? Like I felt relieved because he was no longer in pain. Part of it was too, I felt relieved because it's like, oh, okay, now I know what's next. Now I know we plan the funeral. Where it was so uncertain. We didn't know if he was going to live another, how many, that last week we could tell, like this is going to be in the next week or so. But leading up to that, there was a lot of unknown and there was a lot of things up in the air. I had 6 children. I was juggling a lot of schedules. I was trying to figure out how to get out there and be with my parents, but also be with my kids and also still go to work. Okay, so like there is some relief of just being like, now I know what to expect. And that's okay. All right. And so those initial feelings start coming. And of course, then you're sad and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is real. Like the finality of it kind of starts sinking in. That almost doesn't even sink in until a little bit later. But okay, so then you kind of go through the motions, right? Of like planning the funeral, doing the things, and there's all this like grief, but then somebody will tell a story, and so you're laughing. And so there's just like, it's just a wave of emotions. And then when things quiet down, when the people go home, that's when it gets hard. And it gets hard because all these feelings are still there. You just had things to kind of distract you or keep you busy or keep you occupied. And so you may be even able to do that for a good 6 months to a year or more of distractions, busy work before they really kind of catch up with you and hit you. Mine would come, mine came pretty quickly afterwards, but it was when at night when I was trying to fall asleep and would be in the shower. So the times of the day where I was not distracted, these like I would start to picture my dad again in those final moments, final week. And I just kept like I just kept picturing him, right? And it just felt awful. And finally I got where I'm like, why do I keep picturing him? Why do I keep almost reliving this? It's like I'm trying to torture myself with it. Well, it's because I felt guilty. Like that's what I figured out once I kind of slowed down and I was like, okay, like why do I keep thinking about this? And I felt guilty. And then I was like, okay, well, why do I feel guilty? Right? Like I know that he's in a better place. I know that he's no longer in pain. I logically know all of these things, but yet my heart feels so heavy and I feel so guilty. And then I feel guilty on top of it because it's almost like, well, I don't have strong enough faith. Because if my faith was strong enough, I wouldn't feel guilty because I would just 100% know, like, well, he's in a better place. Like, why do I even feel guilty? And when I broke it down and I just kind of sat with it and paused, it's like, because I felt guilty that I couldn't get him better pain management in the last couple weeks before he died. I felt like it was my responsibility as the hospice nurse, right? Also as his daughter, but most would be like, I should know this stuff. Why can't I figure this out? Why is this not working for him? Knowing what I know intellectually, it's like I should have been able to fix that for him. And I could not do it. And so I felt so guilty. And it just kept coming up. Anytime I'd have a quiet moment, anytime like I'd try to sleep, and it wasn't every night, but it was often enough that it was really weighing on me. And so once I realized like, oh, I feel guilty. I feel so guilty over this. Then when it came up again, right? When I would be in the shower, I would just let the tears fall. And I would just let that guilt just kind of come out. And then once that kind of fades away, right? Because again, our emotions are vibrations in our body. And so you can feel that. And I would sit with it and I would allow it. And I didn't even have a way to put a name on it, you guys, because I didn't know coaching stuff back then, but that's what I was doing. And then I would start to name the facts. Okay. What are the facts of the situation? No, like I asked every nurse that I know, what can I do? Is there another medication? What do you suggest? Right? Like I would, I did all those things. I was looking up online. I was trying to get my dad, like, and the other thing too was my dad didn't want to take a lot of medication because he didn't like how it made him feel. It made him feel groggy. Okay. So I would try to encourage him to take the medication. And so listing all the things that I did to try to help him, and then to list it would be like, my dad made his own decisions. My dad could be stubborn. Okay. Just listing it out and naming that so that I know, like, yes, I did everything that I could have at the time, right? Maybe I have more information now. Maybe I would have done something, but in that moment, I made the best decision I could with the information I had. And so then that would just kind of like help release those very, like a ping pong ball, like bouncing back and forth, like almost like the tense, like anxiety of all like that, the guilt just wrapped up in it. Like I could just feel it almost release when I started listing, like, no, no, Nicole, you did everything. No, remember we did this. Remember you did that. It's like, okay. And the feeling would fade away, but that's not to say it won't come back. Okay. Because I think there's times where we're like, okay, well, I dealt with that. It should be done and over with. I shouldn't feel that again. And there's years later, you guys, I still sometimes think of that and I still feel guilty. And I have to go back again to name the feeling, allow the feeling, and then to list the facts. And now I also tie in another part of it. I also invite the Lord into that space, into like, because we can in our mind, right? God is not tied down with time. Okay. So in our mind, I can go back to that and be like, oh God, like I'm just hurting so much from this still. Please heal me. I'm carrying some wounds from this. Please like be with me. And I picture myself like sitting by my dad and like trying to get him to take the pain medication. And I was getting mean with him because he wouldn't take it and he was getting mean back with me. And and then my brother came and kind of diffused the situation, but I just like invite God into that space because I was hurting so much. I did not want my dad to suffer. I didn't want my mom to see my dad suffer like that. I didn't want my siblings to see that. And so, but also with my dad, to invite the in to like heal that relationship because now I can see like he wanted to spend time with us and he didn't want to feel sleep the whole time. He didn't want to feel groggy. He didn't like, and so like, right, like we made the decisions we made with the information we had. And so just to invite God into that and say, Lord, like there's still wounds there. Like, please heal that. Please heal that guilt that I'm feeling. Because emotions are a good thing, right? And with this, the guilt allows me to pause, to feel it, to remind myself how I showed up and what I did, right? Like the facts of no, you did try, you did your very best. And then to also invite God in to be like, okay, God, like I want to control this. I want to not feel this anymore, but I can only do that with you. You are the only one who can heal my heart and mend it in that way. So please do that, right? And sometimes it might be quick. Sometimes it might take a while because there's a reason why God keeps wanting us to come back to Him and have healing in Him. Okay? So, those few steps, I want to say there was four. I can't remember. But those four steps I invite you to do, and especially the final one of inviting God into that to heal it. And if there's any lies, right? Like the devil likes to throw in little lies with our human emotions. He likes to take part of the truth and twist it, right? And so just to invite God in and to like rebuke the demons and then say, okay, God, and reclaim the truth, right? Like, no, I am a child of God. He loves me no matter what. I did the best I could. Like, God, please heal that for me. All right. And just to keep turning back to God. And like I said, you might feel like it's healed, and then it might be 6 months later and it comes up again. And that's okay. But that just means like there's a little bit more healing that needs to be done. God is just calling you back to Him, which is always a beautiful thing. So, all right, you guys, I'm praying for you. Please go to catholicgriefcoach.com and we're starting the next grief group on November 7th. And so I invite you to sign up for that. And otherwise, I'll be praying for you and have the very best possible day that you can. God bless.